talking about it and do something!
Suck my dick, Earth, with that bullshit.
Really?
It's like a gentle hate.
Do we have another benevolent servant? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Are you benevolent with your friends?
I am moving on. I think I'm coming out of the fire closet.
This is so fucking depressing. I can't be a flat earth person.
Can't have it both ways. Can't have a flat earth and things making sense.
Good evening, YouTube, and welcome to a very special Monday edition of Gem's Flat Earth Sunday Roast. We are back once again with the show they don't want you to see. In tonight's show, we have just one victim, or should I say guest. He's been causing earthquakes across the plains with his plan to end the Flat Earth debate, and he is prepared to go to the ends of the earth to do it, sending some flatties into full-blown panic mode as they contemplate the different ways to think that definitely isn't happening, but later look like it's happening. Please give a very warm, safe Flat Earthers welcome to our very special guest from the final experiment, Will Duffy. Hi, Will.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You can let me know. It's good to see you.
Yes, thanks for having me.
So, I guess we'll get straight on with it, shall we? I'll ask you a question. Now, I'm sure most people have heard the answer to my first question. Hold on. Stop that. Yeah, my first question a few times, but just for the record, please tell us about the final experiment and how it came about.
Sure. So I, probably like a lot of people, didn't realize flat Earth was a thing. You hear about, the Flat Earth Society every so often, but you kind of think they're not real and maybe just kind of trolling everybody. And a friend of mine, she made a Flat Earth post on Facebook, which caught me off guard. And first I thought it was a joke, but she didn't have any laugh reactions on it. It was all hearts and thumbs up, which was a little strange. So I looked into the post and read the comments and quickly learned that she is a flat earther and that people do believe the earth is flat. And I started looking into it a little bit deeper and realized flat earth is alive and well. And instead of ignoring it, which I'm sure a lot of people do, I decided to dive in head first, got involved in the debates, the videos, the articles, the memes, and here we are. So I thought to myself, what if I could come up with a way to settle the debate once and for all, which would make both sides happy? And I came up with the final experiment, which is sending one flat earther and one globe earther to Antarctica this December to see whether or not there's a 24-hour sun. Both sides, flat earth and globe, agree that if there is a 24-hour sun, we live on a globe, and that if there is not, the earth is flat. So that is the plan 5 months from now.
Cool. So, the question I hear the most is regarding funding. And to many of us, this seems like a huge amount of money to spend on something which some people might consider to be frivolous. Isn't there something more deserving that a Christian pastor can spend his money on?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. The people who are the most adamant that the earth is flat claim that this is some big deception and it's, multiple countries are involved. It's the greatest cover-up of all time. And they say that the reason the deception exists is that they're hiding God. And so it's those same people now that are saying that this is not a good use of money. And so my response to them would be, well, if you're right, and if they are hiding God, and if there's this grand deception, I can't think of much more that would be more important to spend money on to expose the lie. So it's a little bit of a strange reaction. From the globe side, their kind of position is that there's a lot of wasted time and energy and resources on debating something that they think is settled and should be accepted by all. And so if this experiment can at least, stop all of the debating and let people use their time, resources, and energies elsewhere, that should also help the earth and humanity. So I think this is a very noble cause.
Right. Do you feel that flat Earth is detrimental to Christian belief when it's presented from a biblical perspective?
I do. Yes, I do. So here's why. If someone is claiming that the Bible teaches something which is which is contradictory to reality, that's a problem. So if we live on a globe and someone wants to say that the Bible teaches the earth is flat, that's a problem. But if we live on a flat earth and someone wants to teach that the Bible teaches a flat earth, that's completely fine. And so my current position, I'm a glober. I believe we live on a globe. And so I think if that's correct, saying the Bible teaches a flat earth is a huge problem. But I have also stated that come this December, if there's not a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, I will become a flat earther. So hopefully we'll be able to make some serious strides and forward progress and maybe even settle this debate in a few months.
Right. So as it stands now, who is going?
Yeah, so the only confirmed person that's going is Dave McKeegan. If anybody doesn't know who he is, he has a YouTube channel that does flat earth debunking. He is a photographer, I believe, by trade. And we held a poll on both the flat earth side and the globe side. He won the globe side poll and agreed to go because there's no out-of-pocket costs for him. We ran a poll on the flat earth side. Dave Weiss won, Flat Earth Dave. He declined the free trip, which a lot of people think is crazy. And so then it moved on to Jaron Campanella of Jaronism. He has verbally agreed to go, but he wants to go with someone else, another flat earther, maybe Austin Whitsitt. And so Austin Whitsitt has verbally agreed to go, but I'm just trying to get them to let me announce that they're going and get them signed up with the company that's going to be taking us to Antarctica, Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions, ALE. And there's a bit of a holdup on that. So I'm hoping here in the next week or two, we'll be able to confirm that Jaron and Austin will be going. But as of right now, only Dave McKeegan is signed up to go.
Right. And are you still in the position that you're not going at the moment?
I gave up my seat for Austin,
Right.
but I know Jaron and Austin really want me to go. And so I'm going to find a way to be there as well.
Right. I think that'd be good. A lot of people seem to think that that's crucial, that you should be there. So, yeah, I think it would be good if you were there because it's your thing as well. And you deserve to be there, I think.
Agreed.
Now, somebody asked, if you don't go, will you respect the results, whatever they are, if you aren't there yourself?
Of course.
Right.
We all should. We all take positions about certain things geographically that we've never seen with our own eyes, that we've only seen pictures of or videos of. For example, I've got friends that live in New Zealand. I have a couple of them, but most people I know have never been to New Zealand, but they still believe New Zealand exists because they have people who have been there and who have testified to it existing and have taken pictures and videos of it. So yeah, of course, I will accept it. Now, the reason what makes the final experiment so special, in my opinion, is that I'm sending a flat earther and a globe earther. So they're going to hold each other accountable. They're going to prevent each other from lying. They're going to prevent funny business. And so, yeah, I think everybody should accept the results because we're setting this thing up to be as fair as possible. And hopefully this will set up any future experiments anybody wants to do. They'll learn from this and be like, hey, let's make sure we have representatives from both sides so that we actually will convince people and maybe change some minds.
Right. Some flat earthers are suspicious and have suggested that you've got some ulterior motive. Now, their conspiracy theories are obviously ridiculous, but let me put one to you that makes much more sense. I think, Will, that you are a paid actor being paid by David Weiss And then at the moment you're acting glober, and as soon as you get to Antarctica, you will claim that we didn't film the 24-hour sun, and the Earth will then be flat.
You got me. You got me. I don't know how you figured that out. We were trying to keep that a secret.
I think it makes a much more sense than the flat Earth ones. You know, that you would start as a glober, you know, and then go to flat Earth. That would be a more powerful presentation, I feel.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy theories being thrown around. The reality is that I can show you in my life. You can talk to my family and my friends. I like to do big things. I have big ideas, and this is one of the biggest I've ever come up with. So I'm very excited for it. I think it will be historic, and I do think it will be talked about for generations.
Right, I'm just gonna line up a little video here for us. Right, you'll be able to watch this now. So, since announcing the final experiment, has the reaction of the flat earthers surprised you? And before you answer that, let's have a look at some flat earth reactions in this 5-minute clip.
Flat earthers are going to go to the most controlled place in the world, and they're not going to let them have their own cameras, and then they're going to flip the branding of the experiment on them. They're going to say it's a 24-hour sun. Then they're going to ignore that part. They're going to say it's a midnight sun. They're going to show it light out at midnight. They're going to show it light out at 1 o'clock.
First of all, if and when anybody goes there, they need to film 24 hours live. For 1 second, please, guys. Okay, sun simulator. If anybody goes there, I hope they're going to use their brain, if they have one, to figure out, maybe that's not the actual sun. Why am I seeing 2 suns in the sky?
To me, it's a red herring to begin with. And so, my advice to anybody who's being invited to this thing is to not bother with it, because in a sense, you're already kind of handing them, regardless of what you might actually go and see. Let's say you really do see a 24-hour sun in December. Does that prove that the ground beneath your feet is curving? No, it does not.
You actually think by looking up at something in the sky in December, the molecular structure of large standing bodies of water is somehow going to change on December whenever you're going, in December. I mean, how incredibly daft is that? Why is the molecular structure of large standing bodies of water not behaving in the manner in which the globe Earth theory suggests at the moment? Is that going to change in December if you see a circling sun? No, it's not, is it?
He's claiming that the motion of a light in the sky overhead somehow gives proof of the shape of the ground underfoot. In reality, the existence of a midnight sun in Antarctica no more proves the globe than the non-existence of a midnight sun in Antarctica proves the flat Earth. The Earth remains a level plane, regardless of any solar observations. The motion of a light in the sky overhead cannot possibly prove the shape of the ground underfoot.
But this is really just a psyop. It's a Hobson's choice that has been conjured up by creating a false dichotomy. Now, one of the claims is that there are many flat earthers that have apparently agreed that seeing a 24-hour sun in Antarctica would be enough proof that we live on a globe. Now, I don't know who has been asked this, and I don't know who has actually agreed to this, but I would say there are many, many of us that have certainly not ever suggested that looking at the sky is any kind of proof of being on, or the shape of the Earth, for that matter, whatever you assume it to be.
This experiment will prove whether or not the Earth is spinning or not, or if it's the sun spinning around us. It will do that. It will prove geocentrism.
You need to assume antipodal positioning. So part of the fallacy is to say, if I travel out towards the horizon on a flat plane in a southern direction towards Antarctica and arrive And when I arrive, I say my journey out towards the horizon with the sky above and the ground below the entire journey, travelling in a direction that is described with respect to a flat plane, using the stars to navigate on a flat plane with flat maps. I assume that when I arrive, I'm on the bottom of a ball, then seeing the 24-hour sun, or not, as the case may or may not be, will prove that I'm on the bottom of a ball I just assumed. No, it won't. Now, the minute people start to actually understand the affirming the consequent fallacy that's being employed, like was employed when Netflix got these exact same people over a barrel with the exact same fallacy.
This is I guess, an intelligence agency plot, and Will was just, trained for the job.
Even our flat Earth model, even if, in my mind, if you were to find a 24-hour sun, doesn't necessarily prove that we're on a globe. Listen, there's no such thing as the South Pole.
It doesn't suddenly make the Earth convex. It doesn't suddenly make water adhere to the outside of an object and assume its shape. It doesn't suddenly make a gas pressure without containment possible. It doesn't do anything. What it does do, according to Occam's razor and the preponderance of evidence that it is not a globe, at the very most, if they did see something like that, it would indicate that there is some kind of an optical phenomenon that we're not fully aware of or understand.
Let me just get this out of, hang on, let me stop that, take this out of present mode. What's that noise?
Sorry.
Oh, right, I thought it was me for a minute. Hang on. Stop presenting. There we go. That's what I wanted to achieve. Yes, so, how some of those reactions surprised you?
Yeah, the reactions have definitely surprised me. So I came into this trying to do something different than normally happens. So here's what normally happens. Either the globe side will just mock the flat Earth side, or they'll go do an experiment and say, we proved you wrong, and not involve them. Or worse, they will lie about being a flat earther. They'll infiltrate the flat Earth meetings and conferences and even get into the homes of flat earthers, saying that they're going to come out as a flat earther. And the whole thing is just to mock them. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something that's fair. And I'm going to say, hey, we're going to do this together. I'm not doing it before you guys. We're going to go together and we're just going to figure this out. We're going to seek the truth. And so the globe reaction has really been a united front. As far as I can tell, no one has varied from the same reaction. So all the globers have pretty much just been like, yep, cool experiment. We think it's a good idea. We do believe there's a 24-hour sun. We're confident in our model. But if there's not, then we'll change our mind. And a lot of people have said we'll stop debunking and delete our videos. And so the globe side is just like, yeah, we're confident in our position. And if we're wrong, we'll admit it. Flat Earth side's all over the map, as you can see there. All kinds of crazy things are being stated. There's a lot of infighting. Yeah, it's interesting. The other thing too, which is discouraging to me, is when people change their mind. So I can't find a single flat earther that made a video prior to the final experiment that said, hey, I do believe there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Everybody's videos, like, Eric Dubé's, was no, there's not. And their video stated, this is required on a globe model. This would prove the globe. This doesn't work on a flat Earth. And so it's like we had agreement. And now before we even get to Antarctica, they're starting to change their position. I see no logical or reasonable or rational explanation for that other than fear that there is a 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I've often thought that when people who believe flat Earth, I think they genuinely believe it, but I think that they hold it to be true in a way that's different to how they hold other things to be true. Because I think that they don't they don't behave how they should if flat Earth was true. There should be more people making representations to politicians and things like that, and there should be letter writing campaigns and the things that single cause groups do to try and get their cause in the public eye and get it political traction, if you like. And there are one or two that have done that, but there's very, very few, and most of it has been stunts for clicks and views rather than a serious attempt to make an imprint. So I think that even though they say they hold it to be true, I think that they often they don't have the confidence that they project, because I think they lack confidence in it. They overcompensate by being very arrogant and very sure of themselves, and I think a lot of them aren't. And I think they think they're going to be rumbled by this, and I think it's bothering them.
Yeah, it's also not ideal that it took a Glober me to get them to Antarctica. I think they should have already been crowdfunding and doing this themselves.
Right, because there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest in it. And I thought Jaron made the best point about it by sort of saying, well, if I think this is a lie. This is what I hold to be true, that this is a lie. And if that's the case, we're going to expose the lie. The thing's not going to happen, or it's going to be covered in cloud for 4 days or whatever,
Right.
So, and I thought, Jaron, I think, is the one for me that I've found surprising a little bit. I mean, I've always thought he had this sort of honest streak in him, but I think he's really, really shown it over this.
Yeah. Yeah, he's done the best job, in my opinion, of standing true to his position, holding his side accountable, and just trying to be as open and honest as he can about the whole thing.
Right. I mean, it's true. A lot of them have sort of rejected the map, over the years. I mean, I think that's maybe what you'll do is sort of take Flat Earth back to 2015, because in 2015, they talked about maps endlessly, and there were sort of teams that were competing to see who could get the map first, and so there was a lot of debate about the map, but all of that they sort of gave up on that. And I know one of the teams that was involved in it, they just said, we're just not doing this anymore. We've lost our way with this. We've got in this race for a map, and we shouldn't have. And then it just sort of became the AE map. They just sort of, and they would always sort of half adopt it. Bob from Globebusters would say, it's not. We know it's not perfect, but it's the best we've got. Karen B has a video where she explains how the sun and moon work on a flat Earth, and she uses the AE map, and she says in the video, I'm not saying this is the flat Earth map, I'm just using it as an example. So she sort of, disavows it and then uses it, in one sentence, So I don't know, it's going to be very interesting, but I think a lot of them are going to say, well, I never signed up to that map. But the argument I always make to them, and I was making this to someone last night, was that if you accept that circumnavigation is possible east to west, which none of them deny, I've never heard any of them deny that, then I think that if circumnavigation is possible, the continents have to be laid out in a roughly circular fashion. I don't see how else it could be arranged. And if that's the case, you end up with something like the AE map. I don't see how there's any other logical solution to that problem.
Yeah, I agree. So, I'll say this for one. If you don't have a map, you have nothing. If you don't have a model, you have nothing. I think the reason Flat Earth has gained so much traction is because they have a map and because they have a model. If you don't have that, you have nothing. And so you know, in the 21st century, you need maps to get around. And we've had maps for thousands of years, I think. I don't even know how old the oldest map is, but I've seen maps in the Vatican that are extremely old. And so the reality is maps work because people use them every day to get places. And so it's very simple, which is if you want to throw away the AE map, fine, but then go lay out a map and the maps that work, and then keep laying them out and keep going and going. And you're just going to run into issues because, as you said, it's going to have to run into each other at some point.
Right. I mean, they did in the map race back in 2015. They hadn't ruled out what they called at the time Pac-Man maps. Have you heard that phrase before? Where they,
yes, I have.
Yeah, where they would use like a Mercator, for instance, and just say, oh, well, you know, there's a portal at one end of it that zaps you back round to the other end, you know, or something like that. So I guess we might end up back there, Will. You never know.
I guess we'll see. That's that's crazy talk to me.
Right. It'd be interesting, maybe, I don't know, there's probably no videos still around, but it'd be interesting to look for some of those old videos when people were still chasing a map, as it were. But
sounds like you've been involved in this space for quite a while.
A long time, Will. Yeah, from 2015. Yeah, I'm kind of embarrassed about that, really. Yeah. What can I tell you? Back then, we had debates going 24 hours a day on Google Hangouts. Still operated then, so we'd have a live debate on YouTube all the time. I do that now with my Discord, but it's not quite the same. But it was a very lively thing at the time. It was quite good, some of these debates that went down. You'd even get people like, even David Weiss would pop in and do a sort of hit and run and make a comment and run away, you know. Even some of the big names would be around then. Jaron came in my hangout once, actually. Yeah, which I respected him for at the time because he was a big deal at the time, you know, as even bigger deal than he is now, really. And he didn't have to come in my hangout and expose himself to the sort of debate that we had, but he did, and you know, he stood up to it a bit, so it was quite cool. So how do you account for the devout Christians who are flat earthers? Do you think they are deceived or maybe deceptive?
Yeah, that's a tough one. A lot of people like to make opinions if people are lying or if they really believe it. I just don't have enough evidence to come out and say that someone is, you know, deceiving and they don't really believe it, or they're controlled opposition, or they're a shill, or any of these just wild accusations that get thrown around without any evidence to back them up. So I do think they are deceived.
Right.
I think they do believe what they are purporting. And again, I'm still open. You know, I did a bunch of research. I really do believe strongly we live on a globe. I expect to see a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, but this is why I'm doing the final experiment. I think it's going to be final for the debate, but I also know it's going to be final for me. And so I will have zero doubt, zero question after December based on what the sun does in Antarctica. And hopefully other people will do the same.
Do you think that God was trying to inform us of this aspect of the nature of the earth via the Bible? And if he was, why do you think it's ambiguous on this issue?
Yeah, I don't think God was trying to explain the shape of the earth and the movement of the earth if it's there, and the speed of the earth and if it's there, and the size of the earth. None of that. God, who is obviously all wise, knows that, you know, we're not going to understand certain things until we advance in the human race. And so it wouldn't make sense. He would say things which would actually discredit the Bible, because back then, thousands of years ago, people could point to it and say, well, that's obviously not true. We have no evidence of that. And so I think God created the universe as something to not only show his power, but to also give us something to explore and give us something to figure out and to make life interesting. And man, studying the world and the cosmos is amazing. I love it.
Right. I mean, I agree with you on that. I just don't think that is what the Bible is trying to express particularly in the verses that get quoted. I mean, I'm not that familiar, you know what I mean? But it just doesn't seem like that, you know, when you look at it in context, that, you know, this is a sort of geology textbook or something, you know? It doesn't doesn't read like that, you know? Where are we up to? I've got a list of questions here. Do you see any parallels between religious belief and conspiracy belief?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. Obviously, being religious, I have a lot of religious friends. But, you know, the whole conspiracy thing, I think we can all relate to some amount at the excitement of a conspiracy being true. There's, you know, a flavor of Gnosticism in there, having, you know, knowledge that's new or not available to everybody else, or special secret knowledge feels good because then you can go tell people and they're getting it from you. So I think you just have to be careful, you know? Here's the thing. Here's the thing that I think flat earthers struggle with. If everything is a conspiracy, nothing is a conspiracy. So literally turning every single thing that happens into a conspiracy. Nothing's going to be a conspiracy anymore. No one's even going to ever even consider it, you know, with this whole, you know, Trump assassination attempt. It's like immediately I noticed a lot of flat earthers coming out and immediately creating conspiracies. And it's like, wait a minute, why don't we wait for information to come out? You know, let's wait for the information to come out, then let's assess it. And then if there's a good reason and there's good evidence to think there's something conspiratorial going on, then accept it, but they make it immediately, you know?
Right. That's interesting. I glanced at an article earlier, didn't read it, by Mariana Spring, who's the sort of BBC conspiracy person. And she had written an article specifically about this, about the amount of, she had analysed all of these posts on Twitter, I think mostly, and the amount, it was millions and millions and millions of views, you know, tens, hundreds of millions for these conspiracy ideas that were out there instantly, you know. But to return to the point about religion, I think that if you think about flat earth, I think it does offer, as you say, it offers that, the idea that you have this greater knowledge, that you are, if you like, elevated compared with the sheep that haven't got it. But also, I think with flat earth, and this is perhaps what makes it different, I think, from most other conspiracies, is, and you used to hear about this, I think, more in the early days, but it sort of offered this idea that there would be a day or a moment in time when all of this is revealed, when the hidden lands become accessible to us and all our bills are paid, and, you know, we don't have to worry about stuff anymore. That you know, it sort of promises a sort of a heaven on earth, if you like, that you don't have to die to receive, you know?
Yeah. Honestly, like this whole, the whole idea of, you know, other creatures existing, extraterrestrial life, aliens, all this fantasy stuff, both sides do it. So flat earthers do it going this way, and globers do it going up into space. So it's kind of the same thing. Of course, it's exciting at the thought of finding a new creature or a new being or whatever, but we just got to wait and see.
Right. So why do you think people are drawn to conspiracy thinking and flat earth in particular? We've maybe covered that slightly, but.
Yeah, we did. You know, I will say this. This is a huge problem, and it's only going to get worse. The suppression of free speech is a horrible idea, and it's partly the reason flat earth is doing so well. When you suppress information, the natural reaction is, okay, what are you trying to hide? There's truth that you're trying to hide. There's something there that you don't want me to see. And just like a child, if you can't see something, then you want to see it. And so, yeah, this whole thing of suppressing free speech is a horrible idea. Here's why. The public square is where you can test ideas, and it's where you can test thoughts. And if you have some crazy idea that you think has merit and you think there's evidence for it, you should be free to test it. And guess what? If it's dumb and if it doesn't have merit and if there isn't evidence, the public is going to show you that, and they're going to put you in your place, and you're going to be like, okay, it's good. I was put in my place by people smarter than me. Thank you. This is good. I am now smarter for this, and I can move forward. But what's happened is everybody's like saying, no, you can't say what you think. You can't say what you believe. We're going to cancel you. We're going to censor you. And it's making people go insane, and it's making people go crazy because they're just like, what's the point in life if I can't even express ideas? And so anyway, all of this, I think, is tied into the political turmoil, conspiracy theories, and all that kind of stuff. Honestly, like, free speech is more important, I think, than people realize.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, yeah, I mean, because I've fallen foul of these rules as well, because I'm reporting on conspiracies, and you know, I'm doing a show every 2 weeks, and I don't just do Flat Earth. I did all of the stuff. January the 6th, I got strikes for that, and then of course when COVID hit, I mean, the conspiracies that came off that, I mean, they were just literally, it was just a field day for me. You know, there's just so much to go at, but of course, I ended up losing an entire channel to that. So, and I wasn't promoting those ideas. I was, you know, essentially taking the mickey out of them. But
right,
you know,
yeah, we're in a mess.
Yeah, and there's been as well other creators, other YouTubers who are a lot more serious than me, who are you know, well qualified, who have done debunks of anti-vax stuff, for instance, and have then had strikes on their channel and, you know, been limited because of that. And because there's just, you know, the machines that are doing this stuff aren't clever enough to distinguish between one thing and the other. And YouTube doesn't really care, you know, they're not bothered. You know, they're big enough to not have to worry about an individual, I think.
Well, right. Plus YouTube, if they demonetize somebody, that's a benefit financially to them.
Right. Well, yeah, that's
right?
True. Yeah, that is true. Does evidence matter to the flat earthers? Do you think evidence matters to them?
Definitely, I do. But the problem is that they don't accept a lot of evidence anymore for various reasons, because they've seen evidence that in their mind was altered. They've seen evidence that was a lie. They've seen evidence that was faked. And so the level of quality of evidence that they require at this point is very high, which is also part of the reason I created the final experiment, which is we're going to actually go to Antarctica. We're not going to take someone's word for it. We're not going to look at any videos anymore. We're actually just going to go, and we're going to send a representative for your side. And if anybody else wants to go on your side, they can crowdfund and go. And so, yeah, the level that they require is very high. And so I think we meet that with the final experiment for sure.
I've always thought that it's more about their way of thinking than it is about the actual evidence. I think it's almost like their epistemological approach to this is really, but I guess that is kind of what you're saying in the standards of evidence that they require. But I think, you know, they're very inconsistent in this. You know what I mean? They'll something uncontentious they'll hold to be true with just the regular evidence, like you were saying earlier about, you know, people in New Zealand, they've sent you photos, you accept New Zealand exists. And I think most flat earthers would do the same. But then if you try and show them a photograph of something in space, for instance, they'll immediately deny it and say it's a photograph. You could have photos of Superman. I can't believe that, you know.
Yeah, I've got a really good example of this for you. I do not know a single flat earther who denies the 24-hour sun in the north, in the Arctic. Right. And so they all accept it, and they've never been there. They've never gone there and videoed it for themselves. They've never gone there and live streamed it. They've all just said, hey, there's videos on YouTube, and so we think it's true. And so they have a different standard of evidence for Antarctica and the 24-hour sun there. And so again, you know, I put a lot of thought into TFE, and I think we're going to do a good thing for everybody in this project.
I think you are. Like I say, I mean, it's making waves, really, like nothing in the 10 years I've been in Flat Earth. I can tell you that. So I do think, yeah, I do think you've definitely made some waves. I don't know what the result will be. I mean, when I first came across it, I thought, yeah, that's not a very good idea. That, you know, they won't accept the result. They'll just make excuses, as we're sort of seeing. But like I say, I think there is a point, because we're seeing them making the excuses, and I think that is part of the point as well, you know. And I think it's put Jeren in a whole new light for a lot of us, I feel, you know.
Yeah, the first time you emailed me, when you used the contact us form on my website, you said you didn't think it was a good idea. So I'm glad you're starting to see a little differently.
Right, because it's really, really altered things. Like I say, it's created some waves. You know, it's bothered people, and I like that. I don't mean in a nasty way, but it's good that it's challenging people, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, you know?
Yeah, it would be worse for Flat Earth if they don't go than if they do go and there's a 24-hour sun. Right. They need to really think that through. It's gonna be way worse for them if they don't go.
I think so. Generally speaking, are Flat Earthers being honest with you? And before you answer that one, I've got another video clip to play of a Flat Earther you recently interacted with, who I don't think was very honest with you. But anyway, let's have a look at him in action. Here's a bit of, I'll get the presentation up so you can see it. Sorry about this. Experiment, share. Right, there we go. And then if I hit this button, we should be good.
So I was in the list of flat earthers then?
Yes.
But I'm not a flat earther.
Uh-oh, what are you?
I'm just a guy. I mean, the Earth's obviously no flat.
All natural applications and experience in life tells us that the Earth is flat and stationary. Everything tells us that it's stationary and flat. The Earth is flat.
It's a globe, you mean?
No, it's certainly not a globe, but it's no flat either.
Water on the Earth is in the shape of a ball, or water on the Earth is flat. So are you in one of those two groups?
Flat water is or spherical water. I mean, that's totally irrelevant as far as I'm concerned.
If you want to find out where we live, how does water behave? Finds its own level. Therefore, the Earth is flat. Simple. So they say that the Earth's 80% covered in water. Right. We know how water behaves. Yep. So how can we be living on a globe?
Have you researched anything at all?
Yes, I have.
But you put me in a list of flat earthers, although I've confessed and said that the Earth's demonstrably no flat, so your research is a bit shit, mate.
The mountain of proof that it's flat and stationary is like that. All the scientific proof tells us that we're stationary and flat.
It's okay, because the 24 people that I invited that are not globe, they all have something in common, which is in their view, the water on the Earth is flat.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say the water's level. I don't know about flat.
Water's flat. The surface is flat. Okay?
I've falsified the globe model.
You falsified the globe?
Yes.
Tell me how.
The globe model requires physical downwards acceleration. Correct?
If you're talking about gravity, I would say yes.
Yes. Well, there is no physical downwards acceleration.
Gravity, the way in which objects fall, do not define the shape of the Earth, and they've got nothing to do with establishing the shape of the Earth. And the objects fall in gravity, mathematical concepts are irrelevant.
I have a scoreboard on my website of globe earthers and flat earthers. Do you want me to put you on the flat earth scoreboard?
Nope.
Okay.
The Earth's no flat, Will.
And there is an abundance of evidence and proofs to show you that it is flat.
I've been saying it since day. This is why I'm saying, why am I on a list with flat earthers when I've explicitly told people over the years the Earth's not flat?
Zero proof for a globe, loads of proof to say that it's flat stationary. That the Earth is stationary and flat. Everything tells me that the Earth is stationary and flat.
Okay. So in your model, it is possible that the Earth is rotating?
There's a rotational aspect to it, definitely. Yeah.
Stationary. The Earth is stationary.
You know, other people who deny the globe have shown the flaws with these circle maps for a number of years and highlighted absurdities with these circle maps.
Here I'm in Japan.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go?
Back to Japan. Yeah, but that tells me that what's in the circle? Is this the North Pole, or is this, there's North Pole, there's South Pole?
North Pole, South Pole.
You know, this is flat earthers I'm talking about. And they've been fighting against these mainstream kind of flat earthers for a long time. This is why I think, to say it's a false dichotomy what you're presenting, Will.
Right now I'm in the UK, right? I'm going to go around the world. You watching? Stay there. I'm back again. Oh, I believe there's people who've sailed around the Earth. They've circumnavigated round in a circle. Well, see that big pond there? See if I was to go there and I was to put 7 continents in it.
Yep.
Right? That would be an accurate representation of the reality we actually live in. But Antarctica is actually all the way round the outside is. What's never been done is north to south circumnavigation. It's probably impossible.
And I think it's disingenuous to then generalise across the full board, because there's people who have been actively highlighting flaws with both of these models for a good number of years, and a lot of people feel maybe a bit triggered and a bit attacked by that. Well, I'm just informing you so that you may get a better grasp on where people are coming from and why they're a bit defensive.
Compasses are flat, you have to hold them parallel. Maps are flat. The Earth is no curvature anywhere.
And that was Dal doing his thing. So what do you think to that?
So obviously I had not seen those clips. You did a lot of good work there. I appreciate that. That's fascinating to me. I don't know what he'd say. He might say he's changed his mind over the years. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he'd probably say that he'd say, oh, that was years ago, and I don't say that anymore. But I don't think his position has changed, actually. I mean, he talked about how people have sort of fought against those maps, but he's never done that.
It's interesting. I'm meeting a lot of flat earthers that are trying to distance themselves from calling themselves a flat earther. You've got Level Earth Observer calling himself a demonstrable realist. You've got Bev, who says if there's mountains, the Earth's not flat. You've got Dell there saying the Earth is not flat. So anyway, yeah, it's to me, it's just obfuscation and just trying to avoid the topic at hand, because the reality is that they do believe that the Earth is flat, however you want to define that.
Right.
So that's why I tried to talk about the water, is to kind of keep this.
I thought that was great. I thought that was a great way of putting it, because they're just turning it into a word game, really, I think. Because, as you say, they do think it's flat. And when someone says flat Earth, no one's thinking an Earth with no mountains and valleys. But that's that's what Bev will tell you, for instance. These mountains and valleys, and he'll do it with the word Earth as well. If you mention the Earth, well, what do you think? What's the shape of the Earth, Bev? He'll go, what, soil? Soil doesn't have a shape. They'll just play these word games with you, and they've been through a few of these rebranding exercises. I mean, we often say in my server, the first qualification of being a flat earther is to deny being a flat earther, because so many of them do now. But they're a true earther, or, they're just questioning the globe. They're a globe denier, all of these sort of things that they come up with.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever, are in contact with Dell, but I thought of something after my interview with him that I thought would be fun to ask him, which is, what if, so he was trying to explain in his model, the Earth is constantly rising up.
Right.
So I want to ask him if maybe we're upside down and the Earth is constantly going down.
Oh, I like that one.
Everything would work, I think,
it
as
would,
it does.
wouldn't it? Yeah. Oh, yes, that would have been good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But of course, they surprise you with these things, don't they? And
Yeah.
I could see, I did think you handled him very well though, because most of us don't last long with Dal. He loses it, and of course, you know how these things escalate. You tend to sort of reflect each other in a conversation. So if he starts shouting at you, you start shouting at him, then he calls you a name, then you call him a name, and then he throws you out. So I thought you did very well, and he seemed to like you as well at the end of it, which is unusual for Dal. I don't think he likes many people.
Good to hear. Good to hear. That's what I'm going for with the final experiment. I'm looking for collaboration and working together. So I'll take it.
Cool. I'll just get this super chat out the way from Sean Smith, who says, this money is for Gem Panda, but only the CGI Gem Panda. They are keeping the real Gem Panda from us. I'm also known as Gem Panda,
Ah, good to
know. Right. How do you imagine that the result of the final experiment will play out?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I expect to see a 24-hour sun. I don't know. I mean, we're going to be there for 5 days. So if there's going to be cloud issues or weather issues, I think we'll be able to make up for that on consecutive days. And so I really don't know. I mean, I'm going to be, this is going to take place in Antarctica, which is a place that most people have never been to and will probably never again visit. It's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But just in terms of the experiment itself, I expect a 24-hour sun, but time will tell.
Right. The last of my questions, and then we'll see if we can get a few in from the audience if they've got any.
Great.
If you have any questions, audience, please feel free to ask them. And if you do it as a super chat, I'll give it priority because I need the money, Will. Yeah, my last one is, do you have any questions for someone who's been around Flat Earth since the beginning? I mean, I've been in it a long time. Are there any things you're curious about, little bits of gossip or just anything? I just wondered,
Nothing comes to mind, but knowing you've been involved in this for so long, I would like to use you as a resource if possible, if I have any questions about, positions people have held in the past and what you remember and things like that.
Yeah, please do, because I think I'm probably the world's leading expert on Flat Earth, I think.
Wow. Okay.
On the argument.
Great.
I'm not very good at physics and stuff like that, but I know about what's gone on in this debate thing for the last few years, I think.
Awesome. Thank you.
I've documented most of it as well because I do a show on a Sunday every 2 weeks where, like I say, we take the mickey out of conspiracy theorists. All right, let's see. Does anybody have any questions in the audience then? They're telling me my volume's too low. They always tell me that.
You sound great to me.
I know, well, I turned everything up earlier, so it should be okay. But anyway, nobody's saying they can't hear me at all. So, any questions, anyone? We'll just give them a minute if you don't mind.
Sure.
We've almost used up an hour, which we were aiming at, so we're about there. Nobody got any questions?
Maybe we did a good job covering everything.
We have got one. Will 24-hour daylight be sufficient for you if it was overcast, or does it have to be the sun in view?
It needs to be the sun in view, and that is because the flat Earth model has a way in their mind, of course, to account for daylight, which is essentially a reflection off the dome. They use like a glass paperweight, and they shine a flashlight from the outside into the glass paperweight, right, which creates like a little bit of a rim of light around the outside edge. Now, what's interesting is that view requires the sun to be outside the firmament. So I have noticed, which I think is a little bit of an inconsistency in their model, is they will put the sun in the firmament, like under it when they need to. for example, to create the 24-hour sun in the north at the horizon, because it's super low at the horizon. And then if they need to, account for 24 hours of daylight, then they'll put it outside. So that's a little bit of an inconsistency, but I'm giving that to them. So 24-hour daylight would not be a win for the globe. It needs to be the sun.
Right. Somebody's asked, while you're doing all these experiments in the south, will you keep an eye on the north? And let me expand that a bit, because somebody else asked me about what they suggested was that you did a sort of a sun tracking around the world at the same time. And the purpose of this would be to refute these ideas of a second sun or an artificial sun, because you track the movement of the sun in other places, and everything should be coherent. And you would expect, if they introduce some second sun that only you guys can see in Antarctica, that it should stand out. And I thought it might be worth attempting this, because they've done it before. In the deep and distant past, they did 2 or 3 of these sun tracking things, where they all observed the sun at noon in their location. And then they recorded all of the results and forgot about it. And then, did a few months later, did it all again, recorded the results, and then forgot about it. But I think it might be a good idea. So, yeah, what the question was, is anybody sort of looking at any other movement of the sun from any other locations, I guess?
Yeah, this is a fantastic idea. And it's something I have on a long list of ideas that I have that I want to find a way to make a reality. But at this point, I've got to focus on getting people signed up to go to Antarctica, which is taking up most of my time. So I'm going to focus on that. Once we have participants signed up to go, all of that is essentially cleared up. Then I'll start to present ideas through our YouTube channel and ask for volunteers and things of that nature.
Yeah, because I think that could be something that everyone gets involved in, and it's I mean, they used it. It was Nathan Oakley that organised it. You'll probably find them on his channel. Because he's still got them there, I think. Sun tracking.
That's cool.
And it was used. It was more of a community event, because he sort of ran it for 24 hours on YouTube. And they were basically sort of connecting with flat earthers around the world as the sun went round. So that, it was a sort of a nice community feeling for them, because they had this sort of global feeling about the whole idea at the time, because it was in its infancy back then. So, could work quite well, that. Let me just see if there's any others here. I don't think there is. Would you be able to pop back and see us in January, do you think, when it's all over, and sort of as a sort of post-mortem?
Yeah, more than happy to. More than happy.
I think that would be good to see.
For sure.
So, all right, I guess I haven't got anything else for you. If you've not got nothing else for me, we're just about on the hour mark. We'll call it a night.
Awesome. Yeah, if you could give people our website, that would be great, so they can keep up with everything going on. And yeah, if you have any suggestions for us, reach out through our website and let me know.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming. And I'm going to hit this button and play some music to get rid of us. Okay. Here we go.
Stop talking about it and do something! I suck my big earth with that bullshit.
Really?
It's like a gentle hate.
We have another benevolent service. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Are you benevolent to friends over?
My name's Logan Law, and I think I'm coming out of the fire closet.
This is so fucking depressing. I can't be a flat earth person.
Can't have it both ways. You can't have a flat earth and things making sense.